I'm Ada Michael. I wanted to give you some insights in the real estate market because there's a lot of speculation out there. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are concerned about that we're heading into a recession and we are going to experience 2008 all over again because 2008 really still is fresh in people's minds. But I think if we look at the fundamentals, we look at what's the difference between now and 2008 and look at some of the other times where we've seen reversals in the market, I think we're going to see a very different picture going forward. Back in 2008, I was heavily involved in real estate investing. I had built a nice portfolio of homes. It was a wonderful thing. I was taking advantage of some of the great things that were going on there. I was riding the wave up. Unfortunately, I didn't see the signs. I didn't see the changes in the market, and I crashed, and I got hurt hard. It took me a while. It took me almost 4 years to lick my wounds before I decided to get back into real estate at all. I mean, I still tracked it. I still looked at it. My family is still involved in it, but it took me a while to really get back into it and feel safe again. Let's look at what appreciation looked like going up to 2008 and what we've been experiencing in recent years. In 2008, we saw some crazy appreciation, somewhere between 6.5 and 12.5% year over year national average. Crazy! That was not sustainable. We all knew that, but we didn't care. We were enjoying it. You start seeing the signs in 2006 and 2007, didn't have nearly as the good of appreciation. In fact, 2007, we started to see that reversal, and that's really what threw things into turmoil. In contrast, let's look at the last 6 years. 4.4 to 6.4% year over year. Our average home appreciation in homes is somewhere between 3 and 5%. It's not what we were seeing before 2008. In fact, I think that there's been we've seen some speculations on, because even just last year, if you Google home appreciation values, last year we hit a 7-year low in appreciation. People were starting to sound the alarms. They were thinking, hey, this is 2008 all over again. And yet we haven't really seen that. Luckily we're seeing just over 4% average appreciation, very different than 2008. The next one of those numbers I like to look at is the Mortgage Credit Availability Index. This is done by the Mortgage Bankers Association, and it's a kind of a gauge on how easy or hard it is to get a loan. Higher numbers, it's a lot easier to get loans. Lower numbers, a lot harder to get loans. In the years leading up to 2008, it was easy to get a loan. Basically, if you had a pulse, you got a loan. We had products like negative amortization loans, where people were paying less than the interest that was being charged, adding that to the balance of the house. Keep on going. There was a balloon in a couple years, and we were expecting the wave. We had stated income loans. You might earn $10,000 a year, but you could say, hey, I earn $1 million a year. Nobody was checking. There was no docs on it. They just trusted you. How's that work for you? No, that was a recipe for disaster. Some lenders, there was obviously tightening regulations that were done. As you can see, that steep decline. In recent years, we've been seeing some relaxing in that, but you've probably seen some of the headlines where some lenders are tightening credit scores and stuff like that. Programs haven't changed. The rules and the guidelines for the programs, those haven't been adjusted. But some lenders are saying, no, we're going to raise our standards, because they always have that right and reservation to be able to do that. But the programs haven't changed. The changes in 07 and 08, 06, those were regulatory changes. Those were big changes. We're not having those right now. The changes are on a more case-by-case basis. The big number I like to look at, it's one of 12 indicators I look on a monthly basis, but it's a good indicator of supply and demand. The month supply of inventory, this is the national numbers, we were starting to hit some crazy peaks. We were way overbuilding. They were happening in July 2006, July 2008, a year later, not quite a peak, but we saw that it's continued to increase. And our high was 2008, at least before the reversal. Then it took about 2 years. July 2010 was our high of inventory. And all of that was the foreclosures that were coming in. I had homes I lost in foreclosure in the buildup, and it took them almost 2 years for them to settle the account, so to speak. That's how many home loans went bad. People were walking away from things left and right, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But supply of inventory in recent years has been going down, down, down. We're seeing crazier lows down into the 2 month range. In fact, locally, over our whole geographic area that this multiple listing service covers, we're just hair over 2 months of inventory. That's really, really tight. If we look at just central metro Virginia, the city of Richmond, counties of Chesterfield, Hanover, and Henrico, we're below 2 months of inventory. We've got about 1.6, 1.7 months of inventory depending on the month. We're seeing multiple offers. We're seeing, if you're on the market to buy a house, you're probably losing out. You're having you're competing against 2 or 3 other offers. It's tough out there if you're in the market. Homes are disappearing in days or hours. You go find something on the internet, call your agent, call me. No, sorry, it's gone pending. That's just where we're at in the world. That's where our supply and demand is. I think there's a huge pent-up demand right now, and people have taken themselves out of the market. I also want to look at sort of the background noise, if you will. These are numbers that people don't always consider, they don't think about really, but bankers look at these numbers all the time. It kind of talks about their exposure and what people, kind of people's confidence in the market. In the years leading up to 2008, 2005, 6, and 7, people took out $824 billion of their homes. Well, why? Because they were seeing their home prices, their values increase crazy amounts, right? 7, 8, 10% year over year over year. They treated their homes sort of like an ATM. They took out cash, they invested it, they did home projects, they did all sorts of crazy things. Works great when your home value is going up, but when you fall off a cliff like we did in 2008, now you had homes that were leveraged more than the equity that you had in them now. Your home value, I had one home, it went from the day that I bought it to 7 years later, it was still 50 cents on the dollar in value. That's a long time. The past few years, yeah, we haven't had as much confidence, I think, in the inventory, in the economy. In the last 3 years, people have only taken out $232 billion, about a third of what they were before. People are still tapping into their equity. Some people have some good equity, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But people aren't, I don't think they're nearly as confident. I think they've been a little scared. And this is really striking when you look at how much equity people have in their homes. 53.8% of people have 50% of equity or more in their homes. Bloomberg says about 37% of homes are owned free and clear, meaning that there is no loan on them. They own that house outright. Adams Data Solutions says 26.7% of homes have an mortgage equity of at least 50%. So people aren't taking equity out of their homes like they were before. People in the 2008, they were tapping all over it, and then all of a sudden they owed a lot on it. It was easier for them to walk away. If you have 50% equity in your home, you ain't walking away. There's great tools out there right now called forbearance and other things that lenders are working with you, and they basically they need very little documentation, and they're going to give you a break on your loan. Be sure you check with your lender. Don't just do it on your own. Check with your lender, pick up the phone, call them, and talk to them. But there's great ways that, if you're having a hard time making your payments right now, you want to do that. Next, I want to look at the cost of doing business, and look at the history of recessions, because we've been experiencing some, pretty good rates over recent years. But what if I told you there been 5 recessions out there? Yeah, there's been 5 recessions. In those recessions, we had interest rates ranging from 6% to 16%. When I first was aware of real estate, people were happy to pay 16% interest on their home loans. What? Even in 2008, people were paying 6% interest on it. When I was first licensed, we were right around 10% interest. People were happy to pay it back then. If a lender came to you with a loan anywhere from 6 to 16% right now, you thought they'd lost their minds. Because what we've been seeing the last 10 years or so is very different. 2019, we're right about in the 3s or 4%. Kind of depends on your credit and a bunch of other things. It's been bouncing a lot in the last couple of weeks, but we're still kind of in that realm, and I expect it to stay there for a while, especially considering what the Fed has done with home loans and interest rates and that sort of thing. So, okay, interest rates might be one thing, but what about home prices? In 2008, yeah, it's not that distant of a memory. It still scares some people. We saw a reversal of over 19%, almost 20%. People got hammered hard in that. But, with that steep decline in prices, a lot of it seemed to happen overnight. People were talking about hyperinflation, and people were willing to walk away because they didn't have a whole lot of equity in their house. They saw their home prices go down 10, 20, 30% overnight. It was easier to walk away from that loan versus paying on something that wasn't worth it. They'll recover in a couple of years. What happened in the other recessions? Well, let's look at that. In 1991, we saw a decline of 1.9%, almost 2%. The other recessions have to be just as hard, right? Nope. No, we saw increases. Most of them are higher than the average appreciation that we see year over year. Given this difference, I'm not sure how much more different our current market could be than 2008. Appreciation has been steady and in a very moderate range. Credit's been restricted, and we've seen some additional restrictions on that, as I mentioned earlier. But interest rates are still crazy historically low. The supply of homes is very constricted, very, very tight out there. Not a whole lot of selection. And current owners, they have a huge amount of equity in their homes. There's a low likelihood of foreclosures, and of course you can get some mitigation in those situations with forbearance and other things. I get it. It's ugly out there for some people. There's lots of people that are really, really scared. And I'm not trying to minimize that at all. There's a lot of people that are out of jobs, but there's also a lot of people still working. A lot of people working from home. There's a lot of people that are working harder now than they were before. There's some people that have been taken out of the market because of those income issues. But if that's not you, if you still have an income for the foreseeable future, I think that taking yourself out of the market right now is a big mistake. I think it could cost you a lot more money and a lot more frustration in the near future. Right now, we're seeing about 3 to 4 offers happening on homes. But when people start feeling safe again, when things start to settle down, people start seeing the world open again, I think we're going to start seeing 10 or 12 offers on homes. And we're going to start seeing some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff like we did see in the years 2008, 2007, or I should say 2005 and 6, really. People might be overpaying for homes. They might be waiving inspections or high dollars on inspections. But if you need to sell and buy, I think it's also a mistake to take yourself out of the market. Because right now, we have some awesome tools that we can use to minimize your health exposures. We have very, very serious buyers out there, and they're solid too. Because the people that have lost their jobs, they ain't in the market to buy a home right now. Those people that are looking, they're in good, solid incomes. And some of the things that the banks are doing is they're checking verification of employment right up until closing. There's a high likelihood of multiple offers right now. Not crazy at 10 or 12 trying to figure it out, but 2 or 3 offers. And we can do lower traffic through homes. We can do it with video tours and 3D tours and good photos, minimizing your exposure again, and avoid the crazy that's happening in the future, especially if you need to sell and buy. I think it'd be worthwhile selling right now. You rent a place for a little bit, and then you try to compete in what's going out there, because it's a different world out there. I think we have some very, very solid foundations. I'm concerned that as we come out of this, I don't know when that's going to be, but I think that we are in the poise for seeing something like this a rocket go off, because we have a good solid foundation. There is fuel in the pipeline. People are ready to buy. People still need to move. I've worked with buyers and sellers over the last couple weeks, got some under the contract, some have missed out. I think it's important to still talk with somebody that can look through these numbers, look through your individual situation, and give you advice. My goal isn't just for sales. My goal is to help people make smart decisions. I want them to have the right information in their hands so that they can make those good decisions. If you want to talk to somebody, get a good opinion on where you're at, kind of your plans and what you're going to do, give me a call. My number is 804-642-4235, or the easy to remember version is 804-MICHAEL, because my number does spell my name. This is Michael Hotman with Keller Williams in Richmond, Virginia. Would love to talk to you about your situation, look through the numbers, help you understand it. Again, my goal is not to make your sale. It's about helping you make a smart decision. Let's chat.